I am California of the past.
I am California of the past.
I
I am California of the past.
Did you know that hogs were raised in Sunnyvale? They were back when we lived in the county and not the city. It is now city where the hogs were raised. My name is Al Waddington, and I was born in French Camp, which is just outside of Stockton, about 4 to 5 miles. I moved to Sunnyvale when I was very young. We lived on Coolidge Avenue in Sunnyvale, and both my parents worked for Libby's Cannery. At that time, my sister, who was 8 or 9 at the time, babysat my brother and myself. I started grammar school in Sunnyvale and went to kindergarten. And the grammar school was located where Macy's is approximately now. That was where it was. We had to walk to school, and there was an apricot orchard right at the end of Coolidge and Pastoria. We either had to walk through the orchard or we walked around. And, you know, guess what we did? We always walked through, even when they were irrigating. And you can guess what we looked like when we got to school. When work was hard to find, my dad moved up north to where his parents lived, my grandparents. And we lived there about 6 months and moved back to Sunnyvale. When we moved back, we lived on the Morris Avenue, right at the end of Pastoria. Pastoria at that time did not go through, so we lived there. On the west side was the Vargas Pear Ranch, and on the east side was a dairy farm. After several years living there, we moved to Matilda Avenue, actually right at the end of Vargas's pear orchard. We lived there for several years and then moved to Morris Avenue. That is where the hogs were raised. I failed to mention that my dad did a lot of his hobby, his work was plastering, his hobby was raising animals. We finally bought our home on Morris Avenue, and this is where the hogs were raised at that time. We had, at one time, approximately 200 to 250 hogs. We used to sell them to the stockyards in San Francisco. A little piece of thing there was the fact that during the Second World War, the land next to us was bought by either the government or the Navy, which is both the same, but they built cement block duplexes there which housed the Navy personnel, married personnel. And that is where the Waddington Avenue is located today. Just a little bit of trivia or tidbits about Sunnyvale is, did you know that there was a constable in Sunnyvale at one time, and that we used volunteer firefighters at that time also? And a little bit other is the Sunnyvale Main Street was only approximately a block and a half long. The main attraction on that block and a half was a Sunnyvale Theater, where we used to go quite often, and it was only 10 cents a time to go. So Sunnyvale then was a great place to live, and it still is.